Okay, we are going to start by opening Photoshop and create a new file. If you will go to print, you can choose letter. That's the size of a regular piece of paper, by the way, and change it to 11 inches by 8.5 with a white background and hit create. You need to make sure that you have your history panel open as well as your layers panel open, because those are going to be the two major things that you use besides your tools. We're going to start by creating a house using our selection tools only. Okay, so I am going to make a rectangular selection. I got my marching ants. And then I am going to use this modifier, the subtract from selection, to make windows. Now, I am starting this, but what happens if I want to make a perfectly square window? After I start drawing it, if I hold the Shift key down, that is going to make it perfectly square. I'm going to make 3 windows across the top here, and I'm going to do my best to try to make them approximately the same size, but I might actually make more than 3 based on the size I am making it. Yeah, I think I'll make 4. Would you stop it with the sticky keys? Thank you. And one more. All right. Then I'm also going to use the subtract from selection, and I'm going to make a door, and I'm going to put it right here. And I want to point out that I am leaving a little bit of space. I'm not coming below the selection. I'm coming to right above the selection. And I'm also going to try it one more time where I try to make it more or less in the middle. There we go. And then I'll do one more window over here and one more window over here. Okay? Now, in addition, I am going to use my polygonal lasso tool, and I want to point out that my feather is set at 7 pixels because I did that on an earlier assignment, so you need to make sure you check it and set it at 0 for this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my polygonal lasso tool is set for add to selection. I am going to draw a triangular roof here. So I am going to start right here and click, and I'm going to come down a little bit below and to the left of the rectangle and click, and then I'm going to go into the house and about out to the same side over there and click, and then click up at the top to complete the selection. And notice that that makes the whole roof there. Okay? Then I'm going to use my colors. Now, I can go down here and choose my color picker. I can also come over here and choose colors. There's lots of different ways you can choose colors. I will allow you to figure that out. I shouldn't say figure that out, but decide what you want. I'm going to go ahead and click and open up the color picker. This is choosing the foreground color, the color that's in front. I'm going to make a house that is kind of a brick-ish color. So I know it's going to be somewhere between like orange and red, but I don't want it super dark. I don't want it super saturated. So I'm going to go right about there and click OK. And I'm going to use my paint bucket. And remember, my paint bucket is docked with my gradient tool. So I click on that. First thing I'm going to do is I am going to make a new layer. If you don't make a new layer, you're not going to be able to move your house. Okay? And all I do is click, and then the paint bucket fills that space. I am going to double click on that layer to name it house. And then I'm going to deselect. Remember, you have this select menu where you can deselect, and the keyboard shortcut is Control D. Now, if you get your Move tool, you can move this house anywhere on this canvas that you want. I'm going to leave it here for right now, and I'm going to make a new layer. This new layer, I'm going to use the Lasso tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create kind of a grassy area for the house to sit on. So as I do this, I'm going to zoom out and make this a little bit smaller. I am simply going to make a new selection, and I am going to do some wavy lines and then go outside of the canvas around to the beginning. And notice that I have the wavy lines up here. I have the solid marching ant on the right, the bottom, and the left. And now I can go in and pick my grass color, and I can fill that here. And I'm going to deselect. Now, as I said, we can rearrange layers, and I can move that house up front. Now, with that house up front, you notice that I can see the grass through it. So this might be a good time to go in and fill my layer, I shouldn't say my layer, well, yes, my house layer, the windows and the door, with color of your choice. I'm going to choose black. And I'm going to use my paint bucket, and I'm going to click right there. Now, why do you think that I was able to click without making a selection and it filled just that area? Well, that's because it notices the solid color around it. Okay? Sometimes that is going to work for you, other times it's not. But I'm going to go ahead and fill the rest of my house that same method. And make sure, once again, that you are on that house layer. I'm going to go to the grass layer and name it. And next, I am going to make a tree. So I'm going to use my rectangular marquee. I'm going to make a new layer. And I am going to have a new selection. And I'm just going to do a simple tree trunk about like this. I am also going to add to the selection and make some branches, and I'm just kind of free forming it, so I'm kind of squiggling out and then coming back in like that, and on the other side and up there. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just getting practice using our selection tools. And you can have a branch coming from a branch. Like that. Okay? Now, I will go in and so we could fill this tree trunk with a solid color. However, Photoshop does give us the ability to put in gradients as well as patterns. So if I look over here in the preloaded patterns, I want you to see that there's something called trees, but this isn't, I mean, it's literally like forests there. But if I come over here to the right, notice that there are 3 little lines there. That means that there's a hidden menu there, an options menu for this panel. And if you come down here, there is what's called legacy patterns. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and it's going to add legacy patterns. When I click on the arrow to expand, you will see 2019 patterns. And one of them happens to be called wood. And so if I click on this first wood one, it actually fills it with a wood pattern. So I'm going to collapse that back up, and I am going to name that tree trunk. And I'm actually going to move it just a little bit because I put it a little bit close to the edge. And I'm going to make another layer. Well, this time I'm going to use the lasso tool. And I'm going to do another, kind of like what I did with the grass. I am going to do kind of a squiggly, like that. Okay. Now, we have brushes. And I know we haven't really talked about brushes. However, this is going to be something fun. So I'm going to want to open the brushes panel, and notice that it opens brushes and brush settings. Well, I already know that the brush I want isn't in here. I have to go here and load the legacy brushes. And just a reminder, every panel has this little pop-up menu. Okay, so I'm going to click OK, load it, expand legacy brushes, and I know the brush that I want is in the special effects brushes. And I'm going to choose Falling Ivy Leaves. And then I'm going to come over here to brush settings. First, what I want to do is I want to pick a let's say a green, maybe a dark green for a foreground color, and a let's see, maybe I'm not liking that. We'll try that one. A different color, two very different greens. That's the important part. Okay, so we're using this leaf. A couple of things that we're going to look at in the brush settings. One is the shape dynamic. So you have to check it and click on this. We are going to turn on the size jitter so that our leaves, and here's the preview window, our leaves are different sizes. I'm also going to change the angle jitter to about 50% so they come in at various angles. The roundness, I'm also going to move up. And then I'm going to go to scattering. Right now, scattering is 398. I want you to see, though, that if you bring it together, it kind of puts it in the same line as if you brushed. But if you make it go out to about 398, around 400, then it scatters it. It also, notice the count. I'm going to put it on, nope, 2, I think. 2. And I'm going to leave the count jitter at 0. I'm then going to go to color dynamics. And on color dynamics, I am going to put the foreground and background jitter at around 57%, up around. The hue jitter around 40, saturation up, brightness up, leave purity there at 0. And I am going to increase my size a little bit because they're kind of small as I was testing it. But then I'm going to, I'm not, when I paint, I'm not just painting in one stroke. I'm doing lots of little strokes. It is only painting inside my selection, okay? So I'm just going to keep on going until I get it. But every time I paint, notice it's changing the hue, which is another name for color, okay? But everything here then is one of those shaped leaves. So once you got it filled in pretty good, you can go ahead and Control D to deselect, and then you have the tree.